Hey everyone, it's Scott again with mobile in 5 to 10 minutes. Today we're going to look at the Xcode Storyboard and its editor. We're not really going to do much coding, but we're just going to get a feel for the layout of Xcode and how we create GUI storyboards for our application. So I've created a single view application over here, as you can see, and I've selected the main storyboard for our application. So let's get familiar a little bit with the layout of Xcode and the different parts of it. Over on the left hand side we have the navigator, which shows us a tree hierarchy of all of the objects that are in our storyboard. In the middle, of course, is our storyboard editor. This is the GUI layout of what we're working on. If you want to see what's behind the scenes in the zib, you can actually look at the XML by showing the version editor, and you can see the XML that's in here for our scene. Go back to this, and over on the right hand side we have our inspector. So when you select objects that are in our storyboard, you can see different properties that show up for items that are in your storyboard. Metrics, view controller. You can also see that, yes, this is the initial view controller. When you look at your storyboard and its entry point right here, as you can see, that's actually this guy right here. You can see when the application comes in, it says, oh, this is my initial view controller. So go back to our view controller, and you can see that, yes, it's set to initial view controller. And also other aspects, like sizes, arrangements, that type of stuff that show up here with the properties and size inspector. So let's kind of get a look at what happens when, I forgot to add too, one of the things that they've moved as well into its own floating screen is the library. Library, when you select that, actually is a selection of objects that you can place into your storyboard. Once you have something that you want to place into it, into your storyboard, this floating screen will disappear. I wish that they had some sort of way of pinning it. It used to be that it was here on our inspector properties, but they have changed it to a floating screen. So I am going to do something really quick here, and I'm going to grab a button. I'm going to select this button, and I'm just going to drag it over and place it into our screen. And we can go ahead and change it in different ways. I double click there, and you can see that that I can actually edit in place the button text. But if you wanted to, you could also go into your inspectors too as well, and also change the title as well. So basically it's a drag and drop type of situation when it comes to your objects that you can grab. As you can see, almost everything that's available for your application is here in our objects floating window. Once you click off of it, it goes ahead and disappears and everything. But as you can see here too as well, now center button is also a selectable object in our navigator screen too as well. So as you can see, there's all sorts of different things that we can do with this. Change things, background, images, background color. Let's go ahead and we can change that to a dark text color if we wanted to. That kind of bolds things. You can change the background to it. All sorts of different things depending on the object that you have. Is your inspector properties are going to change too as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put some constraints on this too as well. So I'm selecting the control key and I'm doing a drag into our view area. And when you do that, you'll see that you'll get a whole bunch of different what are called constraints. And I'm going to set some constraints on this one, and we're going to keep this centered. So I'm going to center it horizontally in the safe area. And then I'm also going to do a control, click and drag with my mouse. So I'm hitting the control key, click and drag, and then I'm centering it also, and then releasing, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a center vertically in the safe area. So as you can see, some of our constraints are not showing up correctly. So you can go down here at the bottom and you can actually resolve some layout issues, and you can select and it will center everything for you and get those constraints correct for you. Whenever your constraints are correct, you'll see like blue indicators that will show you that. If they're incorrect, then you'll always get that orange. But if you want to go and look at an object and see the constraints that it has on it and its layout, you can go ahead and go over to your inspector and actually look at the constraints, and you can actually edit those. So if I wanted to select that one and go ahead and delete it, I'll hit the delete key. Oh, actually, with that one, I can you can right click on that and then hit the delete key, and that should remove things. Anyway, so the other question is how do I tie what's being shown here in our screen to our view controller? How do I get what's connected or bound to something in code? So as you can see, our view controller is our main screen, and if we go ahead and look at this, we'll see that yes, it's set to a class of view controller right here. That corresponds to our code file that's right here. So one of the things that we can do is we can go ahead and select here now what is called the assistant editor. So you can see here we've got our GUI layout, and then we have our view controller, and what you can do is you can hit control and then you can drag this over to your class and let go, and it's a window's going to pop up here, and it'll allow you to bind that button to some code in the back. So I'm just going to call this center button, and we're going to connect that. And as you can see here now, we've created or bound our center button that we have here into code. So if I wanted to, I could go into, when the view loads up, I can go ahead and I can say, well, now I've got center, self.center button, and I can say the text. For this, the set title, and then I can go ahead and set that attribute however I want to do this. So I can go ahead and just set it to center, and then a UI control state, and we'll just set it as normal. So I'll go ahead and run this real quick, this application. As you can see here, even though I've got the text set to center button, it's going to rename that title to center. So let's go ahead and run this application. Our simulator window will come up, and as you can see here, we've set the text to that. So that's one way of handling or getting our GUI objects into a variable that you can go ahead and, or what's called an outlet, that you can use within your application. The second thing that we can do too as well is we can go ahead and right click on our objects, and some type of properties will come up. So what we're going to do is actually respond to actually selecting that button. So I'm going to do the touch up inside, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it and set the action for this here, and we are going to say center button touched. Go ahead and connect that, and you can see that we've now have an action that we can respond to when the user selects that center button. So what I'm going to do here is just actually take that code that we did here, cut that, go ahead and put it there, and when we select on that center button, I've actually misspelled that, so we should actually see this. I'll go ahead and remove that, and then just do a touch up inside, and go ahead and select that. And I'll go ahead and run this. So you can see center button here, but when I select it, it should change the title then to just center, and it responds correctly. So other things that you can do here too as well is when you look at what's over on your navigator side, you could actually select those objects too as well, right click them, and also you can do those type of sent events, you know, or referencing outlets, that type of stuff, and you can drag and drop those two as well over into the code, and insert those actions that you want to use too as well. So it doesn't have to be with the GUI portion of the screen, but you could actually use the navigator too as well, and vice versa too. So if you ever wanted to do things over here, but you can't for some reason having problems with the GUI layout of things, you can go ahead and I'll go ahead and hit the control. You can actually drag and do things too as well, for instance, horizontal spacings, you know, your aspect ratios, and also, you know, our constraints as well. You can select it that way instead of going against the GUI layout, and that actually helps at times, because sometimes you may be working with something that is so minute that the visual editor isn't able to select what you really want to do, so you can actually select whatever you're doing up here as well too. So, and I'll just go ahead and do that. So basically that's it. That's what I'm going to keep it short and sweet today on this. You know, just a general layout and view of how the Xcode editor works. You know, now I showed this in Swift, but it works just the same with Obj-C as well. So I hope this helps. I appreciate the time. Thanks.